I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Happy Friday, it's Tech Talk. Go Raiders! Yes.
How'd you get in the game? I can say whatever I want. Go!
You got us on Double T 97.3. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, and Kyler Brown putting behind the glass, taking care of us. You can hit us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. We got this from Bullfighter. Was hoping for a bowl game. Instead, it's Clint. Great. What's up, buddy? You do have a UNT and Texas State on right now in the Serve Pro First Responder Bowl.
I thought this game was, and I should probably know him better. When I was thinking about this being in Dallas, I'm like, it's over at the old Cotton Bowl, because we played that ticket bowl thing there and 20 beat Northwestern there, and then this thing came on and they're showing us scenes of outside the stadium, and I'm seeing SMU, and I'm thinking, okay, which is probably a better venue size-wise, because the old Cotton Bowl was cavernous, and this game's probably got, what are you guessing, 15,000? Okay, is that a little high?
I hesitate because we haven't seen the crowd yet.
There's not anything in the end zone, so we're nowhere near the 30,000.
I saw the back end zone; it was pretty bare back there. Yeah. I might take the under on that. I'll say this: if you set the line at that, I'd probably take the under, but not by much. And again, they might expand and be completely wrong, but. I haven't seen it yet, and I'm just skeptical. This is a very fun, random bowl matchup.
It's kind of relatable.
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you who is, in the portal. This UNT team could be completely depleted, and I have no idea.
It's the UNT team that is depleted. They're, of course, their offensive coordinator not involved, but he the quarterback. They flashed the graphic there because Morris is where a University of Virginia Cavalier as of a week or so ago. And it said this quarterback here last started a game at Vandergrift High School for the 9th grade B team. B as in Bravo.
How does that work?
So I know. So I don't know if the kid played.
How does that even work?
Vandergrift might be really good, and he played behind some bona fide D1 guy, but he's got some skill set. There could be some of that, and maybe he was the third stringer. But it's also why and
every single one of that team went D1.
Well, it could be or at least at that position or something, or a younger guy past him. Who knows? But that's what I'm saying. It could have been a younger guy past him, and he moved over to play safety,
or he got hurt his senior year.
Who knows?
Something.
But he
interesting.
I was thinking about it. That particular school. I was thinking when that one popped open, thinking, okay, is that Maverick McIver to North Texas? Although that may not be a big enough step up. For the challenge he's looking for. Yeah,
I'm really interested in his.
Jake Strong to North Texas, Jake Strong to ACU. But this North Texas.
Who are you more interested in seeing where they end up going, Jake Strong or Maverick McIver?
Jake.
I might be more interested in Maverick.
Well, Maverick could probably make that.
Only because he's probably, if one was to go higher.
His could be a power four situation.
And I don't know how much draw he has, and I haven't kept up to see, I just assumed something would pop across my timeline just because there's so many shared interest amongst Twitter and stuff that I figured when he did commit somewhere that would just naturally pop up, and I haven't seen it.
Right.
But I'm very curious to what how attractive is he to like a Mississippi State or something like that.
And
I didn't go all the way up to like an LSU there, but you know.
The other one I haven't paid attention to is, I don't know what Zach is inheriting at FAU. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at FAU. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is inheriting at Texas. I don't know what Zach is at Florida Atlantic is Kitley. Does he already have a guy? Is he out looking? You know, like is he looking for a play now guy, or is he even looking? I don't know. You know, I don't know what their situation was like, but you know, there could be some similarities in system there for one of those two guys to go there and help. But I have no idea what their setup is. But yeah, I would. McIver's probably would need to be the one that chooses carefully, because this is it. He's super senior here. Yeah, this is it for him. So he didn't. I mean, unless he's willing to go somewhere and be a backup at a blue blood or something, and maybe a blue blood would take him and go, yeah, we'd take a guy that's got all that you represent. You're our safety net, but you're going to play behind our 5-star sophomore.
And you might get a decent little chunk of change.
Right.
Not like world breaking compared to what some other guys are making, but you might get a pretty penny on it.
Yep.
And
I just don't know what's in his heart right now. Would he rather go to a San Diego State type program, something like that, and let her rip, or a MAC school?
Or I mean, like I wouldn't be surprised if either guy that we just mentioned ended up at like a Texas school like this level, like a UNT or Texas State.
Absolutely.
This on the chat line from Shelly. That's why I don't mind having size 10 skis. All the clearance shoes are available.
Nice, man. When I'll hit the clearance rack on the tennis shoe deal, I'm usually not very lucky.
Yeah, I do not buy shoes of any kind that often. I'll get a pair of sneakers and I will wear them until they turn into mowers.
Yeah. No, I get it.
They're going to get to that point.
I've got about 3 pair out in the garage that just won't fall apart.
I've thrown fireworks in there.
Yeah.
I tied a cinder block to them, threw them in the river. They just showed up back at my door. They rang the doorbell.
Mow the yard next week. They still hold up.
I ran over them with the mower.
I have a pair of boots that I'll shoe glue those back together, because they're like work boot type things. They have some value, but the tennis shoes, when they go, they're the sneaks. When they go, especially if they're already out there in the lawnmower pile and all that adhesive dries out. You're out there pushing the lawnmower, weed whacking, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, what's that dragging behind me? It's the sole of your shoe. Perfect. I drove this car until the wheels fell off, proverbial. This pair of shoes just gave their life.
It's disintegrating.
Had a good 12-year run, right?
I've told you about the item. Speaking of clothing, very clothing heavy hour here. Who cares? I've had a hoodie since I was a freshman in high school. It has stayed with me, and it is tattered. It is just barely hanging on. The string that goes around it, that hasn't been there for like 6 years.
Ouch.
It has started to turn into like a deep Italian V-neck, like a Jersey Shore type V-neck.
Did you Belichick that thing? Cut the sleeves off?
I mean, it's about to do that on its own.
Show off your cannon. Show off your tat sleeve.
Over this break, when we're at my parents' house, there's a random picture on the wall of like us kids when we were younger and I was in high school. And my wife, who hates that hoodie, by the way, is looking at it and is like, is that hoodie? And it was it. Brand spanking new.
That's awesome.
The colors were not dingy at all. All of the parts on it worked together, worked as should. It was great. And then it just reminded her that she really would like me to get rid of that. Never. It is Tech Talk here in Double T 97.3.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
It is Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3, DoubleTSportsNetwork.com, the Double T 97.3 mobile app, brought to you by Happy State Bank, Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, and with our play of the day, Puddin'.
He bounces to Jimmy. Butler raises up, fires.
Oh, Jimmy G buckets.
And a foul.
The G stands for Gex. Oh,
that's a 3 and a foul.
That's a killer.
Wow. points, 39 of them in the second half. This would be a 40th. If he makes, he does. And all-time performance.
Look at that camaraderie out there.
Butler.
You don't think everybody was in tune to this game? You didn't think everybody wanted to win that game right there? That shows you right there how hard this team wanted to win this game. Heart, hustle, and muscle, Chicago. That's what it's built on.
On this day in 2016, Jimmy G. Buckets scored 40 points in the second half, and he broke the all-time Chicago Bulls record for most points scored in a half. That record was previously held by none other than the Michael Jordan.
Who's that?
And I also have another one for you guys today too.
Ooh, bonus.
3rd down and 5. Pressure from Thomas off the edge. Eli Manning stays on his feet. Airs it out down the field. It is caught by Tyree. Inside the 25 and a timeout taken. Oh my God. This ball's thrown and Tyree just goes up for it like a basketball player. Harrison trying to knock it down. And Eli, man, I don't know how he got out of there. I thought he was on the ground and then he came out of the pile and just slings it. That's a great catch by David Tyree.
Eli Manning's one of the birthdays today.
David
Tyree's the other
one's
one.
birthday today. It's crazy they share a birthday.
Yeah.
It's
Really?
weird.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Wow.
Yep.
That's
I
why
don't know
that
if it was-
connection worked so well.
I don't know if it was the same day, but it definitely January 3rd.
Same day, same
Yeah,
time,
that-
same hospital.
I mean, that play is remarkable when you think about it. Like, they were that close to doing the whole undefeated thing.
I don't remember that call from Joe Buck being so nonchalant. There wasn't that much excitement considering he just caught the ball with his helmet.
Golly. Yeah, it's almost like they didn't realize the magnitude until they slowed it down and went, oh my gosh. Because, you think about how much he ran around. You know how hard it is for DBs to chase dudes around because that play went on and on and on, and they broke off routes, and you hear it, he just kind of throws it up. He slings it.
I'm saying on the Manning end, that
it's
keeping that play, because did Strahan have his somebody had his hand on
that
him?
whole defensive line
Strahan,
that year was crazy.
Yes.
I mean, they had O.C. Manura, Justin Tuck. they had a lot of people.
Was it Tuck? I couldn't remember specifically who had his hand
they traded
on
to the Raiders,
the jersey, but
it was Tuck. If they traded him to the Raiders, it was Tuck.
The fact that he got out of that and was even able to put that anywhere near a guy without getting taken down and sacked was crazy.
Yeah, and Harrison plays it well because Harrison's hands on the ball. Like, Harrison plays it great, and he's right there, and it's just and I remember thinking, like, what a tough deal for the Patriot. Maybe you're rooting against them, whatever, but like how close it was. Yeah, wrong team.
Yeah,
that's all right. But how close they were to the undefeated thing. You're like, that play decided it, man, or kept it alive. And then like that may never get equaled out, if you will. And then you fast forward about 10 years, and they're playing the Falcons, and that little tip deal, and Edelman catches that ball and keeps it about 2 inches off the floor in that big comeback, and you go, you know what? Maybe I guess the loser and all that's the Falcons, because they haven't got their football equilibrium yet.
Could you imagine if it was Michael Strahan though? You're going out for the Patriots, like, Eli Manning, I really hate you so much that we're going to make us lose the Super Bowl. It's crazy though that like at that time they were, outside of the Patriot fan base, like everybody else was rooting for the Giants, except for maybe the Cowboys, Eagles, stuff like that. But I would say like 85% of NFL fans pulling for the Giants to end what the Patriots were headed for. And the fact that they were like just, I mean, if you're being honest, like, and I guess from the odds too, like this plucky underdog in the Super Bowl that had this great run, but it was going to end against the Patriots. And then you have this huge play will be remembered forever. But also you had to finish off that drive with a touchdown past that play too. Like, the Patriots still had a chance to win that. And then they'd meet up again just a few years later and do the exact same thing.
Sure.
The Eli Manning to Tom Brady kryptonite always breaks my brain when I think about it.
Brady was 7-3 in Super Bowls. All 3 of those losses came against NFC East teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if
Golly, yeah.
Nick Foles was the other.
Yeah. Like great.
Oh man.
I was thinking it was Adelius Thomas, but I obviously have all of the other facts around it, the trade and all. I had that totally flipped. But yeah, regardless of who it wasn't some 8th stringer. I mean, and he's got him, and but he's falling down. Just kind of pulls out of the grip, and the whole play slowed down because it looks like he's coming down. I mean, just that. What a bonkers play that was.
In today's NFL, do y'all think that whistle gets blown?
Ooh, yeah, that's.
I don't think in the Super Bowl, because we just
Fair
had this with so Texas.
Maybe not with a minute or whatever, minute and a half left in the Super Bowl, but yeah, that. It feels like that targeting the other day.
Yes, because that was the whole point. I don't think that the refs were out. Personally, I don't think that they were like out to screw Arizona State. Although I do think they got the call wrong on review. I think it was more of the angle, we don't want to be the ones that decide this game. So even though we're looking at it, we're going to wash our hands of this. And they had a chance. Now, that's not – Arizona State still had a chance to win that game. I don't think that it was like, hey, they got screwed on that call, and that's why they lost. I think it's more of that still. So if you replayed that same play in a Super Bowl today – I still don't think that they would blow a whistle fast, because I think in moments and in championship games that just gets approached
Given
that way.
Situation.
And this way, like go to a big one with the Chiefs versus the Eagles, and you have a massive defensive holding call, right? Massive. I don't think it's just the funniest argument to me. I don't think I heard one person go, "That's not defensive holding." What I heard was, you don't call that in that moment. And to be fair, it rarely does get called, and that certainly didn't help the Chiefs and the refs or, in the same corner sort of
controversy.
Thing. And so I think that's why that was such a big deal, because it is rare that you have something like that could be let go, called or not called, actually be called. Just interesting.
Yep, absolutely.
This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Hey, that was Vern Lundquist on the play-by-play call on the Tony Dorsett run. Not many people remember he was the voice of the Dallas Cowboys before Brad Sham.
Yep, Sham was his color guy right there, and then Sham flipped over to the other booth, and then Sham went away and called Rangers for 3 years. George reminded me of this earlier, and then back to the role now. Him and Laufenberg have been there for a while now.
Shelley and Tyler also helped out, by the way, with the Mel Gibson flick. It is not the ladies' man. It is what women want.
There we go. Yep. I thought I was entertained. That one comes to mind, I guess.
It's pretty much the same title, for being honest. I didn't watch that movie until like 2 years ago, Gus. My wife likes it, and watched it. It was entertaining. Not bad.
Yeah.
Not a bad little flick. It is Tech Talk here in Double T 97.3 basketball talk when we come back.
The podcast put together with Red Raider fans in mind. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
It is Tech Talk here on Double T 97.3, DoubleTSportsNetwork.com, and the Double T 97.3 mobile app, brought to you by our friends at Happy State Bank. Thank you for joining us. If you just got off work, you did it. The weekend's here. Happy Friday to you.
Survived the 2-day work week.
Yeah. This week does really
two little mini weeks.
It really, I dislike the 1 day off holiday landing on Wednesday. It's the worst day for it to land to me. So I get it if your week's been thrown off. Clint Scott, Dr. Mike Gustafson, Kyler Brown, Puddin behind the glass, taking care of us. You can hit us up on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Thoughts, comments, questions. You can give us your questions specifically for Ask Tech Talk if you'd like. That'll be in 45 minutes from now. You can also call us on the Visual Edge IT hotline. That number is 806-771-0973. You can stream us live on Fox 34 News Now and also on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, feel free to subscribe to the Double T Sports Network channel. We got fun stuff popping up over there all the time, even past our normal weekday shows. We got this on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Apparently we contaminated the crime scene because that spill uses a lot of glitter. Now that I showed you the clip in the break, you remember what?
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Incredible.
Like it.
This on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Regarding the Joe Buck call of the catch, there was a discussion on Twitter of Joe Buck's transformation from boring, unenergetic play-by-play guy that a lot of people didn't like to someone people really enjoy. And this was one of the plays in the thread that was one of his lowlights. I do agree with that. The opinion of Joe Buck, like from a mass fan view, I think has greatly turned to where there was a lot of people that, well, they did the like, you got this job because of your dad and you're not that good. And I mean, same thing like the texter said, low energy. And now it feels like he's one of people's favorites. Maybe not the absolute favorite, but I feel like he's really turned a lot of people's opinions on it.
As evidenced by the zillion Super Bowls, and he was doing all the World Series as well.
And then and then getting the Monday Night Football gig.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't show up for much low, just mail it in games. He actually did like two. He did a Cardinal game, and it was kind of it wasn't necessarily a throwback game, but he had agreed, in the middle of the summer to go be on a Cardinals broadcast because it was a throw it back to to your roots kind of a thing, and it rained and it rained out the game, but he had done a bunch of the pregame stuff, and so then he came back a month later and actually did the game and was in the booth and but that's probably the least low. These days, that's like the lowest viewership he's messing with. He's at the top of the game, man.
Big Game Joe, that's what they call him.
Well, he's my age, a little younger.
Yeah.
Mid 50s, mid to whatever. I'm 57. He's around my age, but so in other words, he's not Al Michaels, taking it year by year at this point.
I think an interesting take that I had a conversation with Hacks one time, and especially and like you and Jamie probably have a lot of these same thoughts too. But I'm always interested, like from the broadcaster's perspective, like what are their opinions on this guy? Like, there's the fan side, but then the guy that's in the business doing the job knows the ins and outs. Like, what do you see of this? And he was talking about Joe Buck one time, and laid it out with like a big thing for him is that he has like crutch kind of calls, like it's, and he gets the pass off, caught, and it's like that.
Sure.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with it, and I don't think he did either, because he's pointed out that he has his own crutches and stuff like that. But that's just something that he noted of Joe Buck that he thought maybe, especially like a decade, 15 years ago, that was something maybe he leaned into more, and it was like noticeable to fans, and that's why it seemed like he didn't have energy, because he wasn't just filling every single play, every single second of a play with a word.
And he's and he's done a whole lot more TV these days than radio. I can't imagine his last radio broadcast.
Oh yeah,
but he didn't have to describe,
which is different, a different approach.
Yeah, I mean, you go back and watch. You see it on YouTube, but the Summerall Madden games, that were he was what we're talking about here. Those two called the biggest games forever, right? The same kind of, 20, 25 year run, right? And Summerall's very minimalist. And we loved that guy. I mean, I say we, but just like
he's a fan favorite.
Loved that guy. But
legend.
He'd just say a name, Aikman, Irvin, touchdown. I mean, just so. But again, it's the difference between calling radio and TV. Radio, your job is to, or at least the play-by-play job is to paint a picture
Yeah.
You got to do that. And you call enough high school, you got to go trips right, da-da-da. If you're on TV.
It's a lot of power. You could lie at any time. And his pants are down at the 50-yard.
Sure. But you don't need to do that on
TV. They'll know you're lying.
It might jump out at you. If there was something that jumped out at you as about a formation or something, you might reference that in a TV play-by-play like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like some of the trick formations that you line up in on an extra point. Where the center's over here and 7 linemen are over there, like, whoa, like that would come up. But you're not, you don't need to. You're really trying to bring attention to it at that point in a TV call. Whereas if you're in a radio, you got to, like, you had a whole issue of trying to describe the Slayton.
My gosh.
Little wingback thing that's angled in toward the tackle.
Slot eye offense. If I never see it again, if I never have to call it again, congrats to Slayton on the season.
Absolutely. Yeah.
If I never have to call that offense again, I will be a very happy radio man.
It's so unique that you had to try to paint a picture and describe that it's like a traditional kind of a wingback thing, but his formation lineup is angling in toward the tackle's rear end. Like he's facing into the line of scrimmage.
Here's 3 offenses that fairly well to kind of well that we're meshing all together to something that is going to really be a pain to call.
But all
because
of that
it's supposed to be a pain to the defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of that to say, the Summerall Joe Buck guys, I think are very minimalist in their play descriptions.
It is Tech Talk here in Double T 97.3.
It's every Red Raiders' favorite podcast. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Back on 97.3, it's Tech Talk. Clint made a run for it. Ran down the hall to the restroom, and, well, let's just say it didn't go well. Puddin', you got anything planned this weekend? You doing anything? What do you got?
Not a lot this weekend. I've got work Saturday. I'm off Sunday. Looking forward to a slate of Week 18 NFL football.
Yeah, I'm kind of doing the same thing, but it's such and I guess every week there's a small list of games that maybe captivate you. Normally I'm interested in the Chiefs this week. That they don't have a lot riding on it, but there's a few of those games that'll be a little more interesting than the others. But yeah. Because we got some Saturday slate tomorrow and Sunday.
The whole AFC North.
Hey, welcome back. You okay, big boy? We were worried about you.
You want to know the conversation I just got
distracted
by?
No, I don't want to know what you were doing in the bathroom.
Josh and I were talking about, have you ever seen videos of people when they're in the woods and they like balance rocks out of nowhere just for no reason?
I know about skipping rocks. Balance rocks, like just stack rocks
on
top of each other?
No, it's just like they'll go through and they'll make these things where like they make like arches out of them and they're using balance. So I don't know. It's a very interesting conversation. I'm glad I brought it up. That's why I was late though. I blame the rocks. Big news today for Texas Tech football. Came out about halfway through our show. Davion Carter, offensive lineman, will be returning.
Sure.
So maybe you are going to have the same interior line that you had last year. We'll see what the lineup actually looks like. But the big thing for Davion Carter, of course, was the ruling for JUCO players to get those years back. And Davion Carter fell under that umbrella. People wondered if he would use that just in general, or if he would move on, maybe try to go to the NFL, or just, do whatever the next phase of life is for him, or also would he enter the transfer portal and use his remaining years somewhere else? Instead, he announces today that he's going to run it back with Texas Tech. And so at worst, Gus, a very good depth piece. But I think that he provides something I'm saying at worst.
Experience.
Just because I don't know what
who knows?
With all the guys you've added and still may add, it's going to be very interesting of who ends up your first game next year as your starting 5 on that offensive line.
Yep. Good news is there's a little bit more to work with.
Mm-hmm. After we're done, 6 o'clock, it's Friendship Girls basketball at Odessa High. district opener. It is that time of year, Gus. Of course, some other districts have played a couple of district games already before you even went into the Christmas break. For Friendship, they will be starting that on the girls' side tonight. Of course, the boys pushed back a little bit. They'll start district play in a week. 6:30 tonight, 100.7 the score. Some bowl game action. It's the Duke's Mayo Bowl, Virginia Tech, Minnesota, head-to-head. The Gophers and the Hokies. Tomorrow we have,
as they say, Gokies. I mean, that's kind of your cheers. You blend the Go and the Hokies together.
Oh, I thought
Gokies.
you were combining a Hokie
No.
and a Gopher.
No.
I thought you were doing something that I like to do.
Who I'm rooting for.
You were doing a real thing.
Yeah, just Gokies.
That sounds made up. Really?
Gokies? It's been texted.
Gokies.
I think we've seen it on Twitter too. Maybe like hashtag.
That sounds like Go-Gurt's rival. Like, have you tried that new flavor of Goki? Raspberry. It's delicious. It has real fruit in it, Gus. Bahamas Bowl's tomorrow, 10 o'clock, 100.7 the score. You can also hear a couple NFL games tomorrow from the same division. How about that? The Browns and the Ravens. That game in Baltimore, 3 o'clock, 100.7 the score. 6:45, the Steelers at the Bengals. You can hear both of those tomorrow. All two of those games, I should say, both of those games mean something to the playoff picture. That division has been really, really good. Of course, the official odd man out is the Browns. The Bengals will need a little bit of help. They'll need the Chiefs to beat the Broncos. And also they'll need to beat the Steelers, which is also easier said than done. But for their kind of wishing and a praying, looking across the way, the Chiefs, of course, resting multiple starters with the 1 seed already locked up on the AFC. So it's the final week of drama, which is always really fun in the NFL. Speaking of drama, Sunday night, top seed, NFC, up for grabs. Minnesota, and speaking of Minnesota, the Vikings of Minnesota and the Detroit Lions squaring off, 6:30, 100.7 the score. They said winner gets the top seed. The loser becomes the least fun 5 seed to play in recent memory. I mean, it's going to be a 13-3 5 seed, Gus. That is crazy. Nope.
Yeah.
Bad math.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Well, 17 games.
Yeah. Oh, it'll be 14-3.
14-3.
There'll be a 14-3.
Which is even crazy.
Yeah, and it'll be of course it's, got more games than ever. Be the first 13-plus win wild card team in NFL history. Again, there's a little bit of deceiving there because they're adding games all the time, but the loser gets dropped to the 5 seed. Mm-hmm. 5 seed. You're either sitting at home with a bye, home games all the way through, or you're a 5 seed.
Ooh, crazy. Also have Dallas, their final game of the season on Sunday, taking on the Commanders at home, 11 o'clock pregame, 12 o'clock kick. The pouty lip is out on Kyler.
Have y'all seen the ticket prices for that game?
No. Are they hilariously low?
Hilariously. It's laugh out loud funny how cheap they are.
You're talking about the Cowboys game?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it makes you wonder if, obviously the Cowboys don't have anything to play for. Makes you wonder if there's any effect from the fact that there's also a national a semifinal football game around the same time. Mm-hmm. Maybe folks picking between the two. I don't know the answer to that, but there's a lot going on right now. It's a lot tough competition for the 7 and 9 team. Yeah.
Lady Raider basketball will be in action tomorrow. This game was moved up. Originally a 4 o'clock tip, now a 1 o'clock tip in Manhattan, which means coverage will start at 12:30 on 107.7 The Red Dirt Rebel. That Kansas State team, depending on which poll you look at, either 11th or 12th, either way, a top 15 team and a challenge there in Manhattan as they try to bounce back from the loss to Arizona State. For the men's side, you can hear their matchup at Utah starting at 5 o'clock tomorrow on Double T 97.3, 6 o'clock tip there in Salt Lake City. Other games in the Big 12 tomorrow: Oklahoma State at West Virginia, Baylor at Iowa State, BYU at Houston, Arizona at Cincinnati, Kansas State at TCU, and Colorado at Arizona State. I'm interested, Gus. Obviously, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Baylor ranked 25th at Iowa State, who right now I think is the easy pick. Of course, it's also easy to say this when they're ranked third in the country, but still the easy pick to say this is the best team right now in the Big 12. Until we get farther on into the season and things may change, they just look like a complete team, and I think you can find holes in every other roster right now, and I'm sure Iowa State probably has some, and you'll find them in the Big 12. But right now, it doesn't seem like they have as many. But another one that I think is really interesting is Arizona at Cincinnati. Cincinnati, top 25 team. The Bearcats, they started off Big 12 play with a loss at Kansas State. They're hosting an Arizona team that came in with a bunch of big expectations and didn't have the best non-conference. Can they get right? That's a sneaky good game in the Big 12 on Saturday.
It does have a similar feel to the Red Raiders situation where you're thinking, well, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
Where just how tough everything is from game to game, and hopefully this is just what we think it is, which is everybody's punching everybody and landing haymakers and getting like a hockey fight. Just punch, 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 and not something that separates from us.
It is Tech Talk on Double T 97.3.
The podcast that finishes your workday in a very Red Raider way. This is the Tech Talk Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
It is a Friday edition of Tech Talk on Double T 97.3, DoubleTSportsNetwork.com, and the Double T 97.3 mobile app, brought to you by Happy State Bank. Ask Tech Talk in 15 minutes. Give us your questions on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. For that, you can also call us on the Visual Edge IT hotline, 806-771-0973. Clint, Gus, Puddin. You have a game tomorrow, Gus, against the Utah Utes in Utah, and the Utes are entering this game 8-4. There is a little extra pressure just from your lack of good wins, and this would still barely qualify for a good win other than it being a Big 12 win. But I mean, in the scheme of where these Big 12 teams are right now, it's still not the type of win you're after just yet, although you certainly want it. So it turns more into you feel like you really can't drop this matchup. After that, you're going to stay in the state of Utah on the road against BYU before hosting Iowa State here back on that next Saturday, which is going to be a biggie. But these Utah Utes are
let me say this before you get to the team thing about the travel. The league is using that like we'll see more of this
partner.
Yeah, kind of the travel
or the
partner
2-for-1 sort of thing.
One trip, and you got to believe that
one true trip.
Yeah,
Big 12.
Yeah, there you go. You got to believe that the ACC is doing this a lot with the Bay Area teams. I think I told you Virginia
I'm sure
Tech
the Big
will go
Ten's
play.
doing that with Oregon and Washington.
Exactly. A lot of that where you're going and playing Saturday and Tuesday, some such. It probably have done that in the ACC with the North Carolina State Duke North Carolina situation, but think about that though. Like college kids don't do a ton of that. I mean, the Lady Raiders are doing it. Chuck's on a trip like that, but that's got a little bit more of an NBA type feel or an NHL type feel.
You're
that
like
you go out and play.
Boston on this West Coast road trip. We're playing, the Warriors and the Clippers all in the same stop.
Right. You go out and play and maybe switch hotels and get to the next site. And the Chuck and them did that. The Lady Raiders trip was Arizona, Manhattan, but they still stayed out. Mm-hmm. We did that in baseball one time. Went to Kentucky, then bust over to Louisville for a 2-game midweek, and then flew to Waco and play. And that was a long time, and that was spring break situation. But this thing will feel a lot more like an NBA type trip. Where they'll go out and bus across town, because he did talk about them switching hotels and just some of the thought and the prep stuff that goes into that. They play up a lot of the altitude stuff, and he was like, we're at 3,300 feet here. Mm-hmm. Save that. Save your. He said because it's one of the things. He goes, they'll sell it. They'll put that out there, and hey, but they're only at like 4,800. It's not a crazy number. It's not even the Wyoming number, but it's not really something that we have to react to because we're at 3,300 feet. But it's something they'll be pushing.
Yeah, it's the mindset that we talked about.
But it's 4 nights in the hotel.
It's any sort of advantage that if you can put it in an opponent's head.
That's the smidgen of a doubt.
Yeah.
It's a bigger deal for Houston and those guys that spend their, that spend all their time down at sea level. It is a bigger deal. But
well, it's like if the opposite side of that, if I was UCF, I'd be drumming up every chance I could that you could run into a hurricane, crack, or retirement homes if you're not careful down
if
here.
I'm an outdoor sport down there, I'm selling heat and humidity is what I'm selling.
Oh, that's right. Heat and humidity, alligators, pythons, iguanas.
Crazy stuff.
Iguanas not that scary. Just funny to think about iguanas running wild in an American state. It's funny you do say that though, because you were already going to add more in-conference miles just because you add 2 more games to the schedule. Now, you're adding 1 road game and 1 home game, but you also pair that up with more teams and more miles from these places being farther and farther away. And like the road trip side, again, I'm not trying to like start a sob story or like the world's tiniest violin for these Division I Big 12 basketball players, but from a conference schedule that's already brutal to play, it's just another added thing that goes into it of adding more miles and maybe doing road trips slightly differently than what you've been doing in the past. And that's honestly more from the coach's perspective because you have so many new faces that maybe haven't even played in the Big 12 before. But it's just another like small hurdle. This Utah team, Gus, I think is very interesting. Again, not a lot of expectations around them. They are 8-4. They're coming off 2 losses. They lost to a solid Iowa team, 95-88, a week ago, and then started out Big 12 play with that loss at Baylor, where they just got drugged all over the court. Now, the interesting thing about this Utah team, other than that they have twins, is that the twins there for Gabe and Mason Madsen can have nights where they're really good outside shooters. And right now that's something that worries me a little bit.
Absolutely.
And Gabe Madsen is their leading scorer coming in with 17.5 points a game. But you look at that, fairly close matchup to Iowa, where I guess they end up losing that one by 13. But they did not defend. You know how many points Iowa scored on Utah in that game in the second half?
I do not.
59.
Oh.
They had a 59-point half. So if you want to find that from your offense, that'd be great. But
and we gave up 47 on Tuesday and felt like we were a sieve in the first half. 59's a lot.
But the twin that hasn't scored quite as much, still their second leading scorer, Mason, he shot 11 threes in that game and made 6 of them.
And they shoot a lot. Just in general, the team shoots a lot.
They have 2 guys in their starting lineup that I'd be shocked if they put up a 3-pointer. One of them is a 7'1" true center. But outside of that, they've got guys that will launch it. And if they're hitting, this is where I look at going like, man, if they have some Big 12 home court magic, your perimeter defense needs to be so much better from the get-go. You can defend. Your on-the-ball defense needs to be better too. But from what Utah does well, I'm more worried about the pass around, spot up, and shoot you out of some defenses. This is not the team that you want that to happen. You can't have a St. Joe's Part 2.
No.
This is kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, Coach Linder was interesting last night because he's competed against their head coach. Coach McCaslin has competed against their head coach, and so there's some familiarity there. But yeah, this team's going to shoot it, and we don't know yet really what we're going to get in terms of an environment. Is it going to be a hostile crowd, or who knows? But that'll be it'll be our first chance to see this thing up close.
By the way, Gus, I know you were worried about this since you missed it. 17 years ago today, Todd Reesing led the 8th-ranked Kansas Jayhawks to an Orange Bowl win over the 3rd-ranked Virginia Tech Hokies, 24-21. It's Tech Talk, Double T 97.3.
This has been the Tech Talk Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet97.3.com.